Ladies and gents, welcome back. I take no pleasure in bringing this story to you. No, I'm not giving you a story from a third world dump. This is a story from Canada, and it involves a otherwise well-respected organization known as Cadets Canada. We have here live from the shed, marked as unvaxxed and segregated from his peers by Canadian cadets. This boy was among those made to stand behind a fence and watch while the rest of his group went for a flight. Now, what's going on here? A boy being marked as invalid in this case. Now, Cadets Canada, if you're not aware of what they are, this is a youth group put on by the government in coordination with the National Department of National Defense. Learn more about the Cadet Program, a program for youth between the ages of 12 to 19. The Cadet Program offers once-in-a-lifetime opportunities that develop leadership, citizenship, and self-confidence. From flying, sailing, to going on expeditions, your adventure starts here. And of course, there's no mention of what we're going to be getting into in this here, but it's an organization that offers all kinds of training courses. So you can have training in aviation, training in whether it's flying or being a part of running air traffic control or being a mechanic. Aerospace, there's air crew survival, flying, all kinds of really, really good skills to learn as a young person and decide what part of the community, your community, what part of society you're going to fall into. And this is designed to shape leaders and shape great citizens moving forward. Now, what great leadership have we got going on right now? Now, this is from Veterans for Freedom. Veterans for Freedom has received the following message from a pair of upset parents, and they asked us to share their story. They also requested that all messages of support or inquiries be sent to at info@veteransforfreedom.ca to be forwarded. So don't try to reach out and contact these people yourself. Please go through info@veteransforfreedom.ca. Now, the letter came in branded, humiliated, segregated. My son was up early at his squadron headquarters on a beautiful Saturday morning. They have had barely any opportunities in the last 2 years in Air Cadets, but he has stuck it out, staying involved and volunteered for community ceremonies. He spent a long time at the cenotaph on November 11th because he did double duty. The squadrons are sparse after virtual meetings, and he sacrifices his time for these important events when other cadets are too busy. He is a valued member of his squadron in these instances. He was so excited to go to get to fly on a Hercules. A Hercules, I guess, is a type of aircraft. He was excited. There was actually some fun and memorable that he was allowed to partake in. There's not a lot of things he can participate in being unvaccinated. He understands that. He says he still stays dedicated, diligent, and involved. And other cadets had been given written and verbal information and a consent form to go. There was not a mention of anything vaccination status related, and that's important here. We double-checked, triple-checked. They spent 2+ hours getting to London, Ontario on a federally funded bus, which of course he was allowed to get on. He even said, "This is going to be a great day," and he went off. This is what I understood took place. The bus was stopped when they arrived. An army person, which my son could not identify, boarded the bus and wanted everyone to put up their hands if they were vaccinated in front of the whole group. They proceeded to ask who was not in a raise of hands. All his peers were now well aware of his medical status, part of the small group at his age that is not. The non-vaccinated were removed from the group at some time while unloading. The unvaccinated children were given a 0 with a line through it on their hands. And I have an image of that here. It doesn't look quite like a fancy 0, but I'm not sure if that's supposed to be a 0, but yeah, it's a mark nonetheless. Again, abhorrent here. So I have no idea what the purpose behind this was. What would you think and how would you feel as a child marked with a 0? There was only a few of them from each group. Nothing about this was acceptable, yet uniformed adults gave this instruction. Someone had to mark their hands, and their superiors in the squadrons watched idly as this happened. Again, did even one of them comprehend how my child felt in that moment? Humiliated, pointed out, labeled. Could you imagine what would be said if this was a separation of a different kind? The letter goes on to say, they were then separated away from their larger group. Supposedly, there was not many places that they could leave them, they could leave them or shove them off to. Left in the care of an unknown civilian adult, my son was not made aware of who this person was. Made to stay in a laneway behind a fence, loading dock, or something. Kind of just thrown over there, and we have an image of that here. So it's been purposely blurred out so that you can't see the identities of the children, but this is the non-vaccinated cadet segregation area behind a fence. Not even in the same area. I mean, they were allowed to be on the bus together. They were allowed to be in close proximity for all this time, but as soon as they got to the area where the aircraft was for this flight and experience for these young cadets, they were separated and put behind a fence. Seems arbitrary and cruel, in my opinion, but that's where we are here. Probably a last-minute thought of what to do with them, and told they cannot leave this area while the privileged children got to fly on a plane. With a taunting front row view of all the happy cadets, officers, and captains lining up, taking pictures, lots of video, and going on their flight, he could not escape it. He called us upset, frustrated, not understanding, asking us to just come get him. Just wanted to get out of there. We were 2+ hours away at the time. We talked him through it a bit, trying to piece together what was happening and why. If you knew my son, you would know his humor, and with the devastating tone in his voice, he's a good kid. He asked us if he wanted a picture of the Reject Club, as they named themselves. I think this was his way of deferring emotions. He stayed seemingly composed. The only comfort I took at the point was that there were other candidates from his squadron going through the same experience. After that, once in a lifetime opportunity for all those happy cadets, they at some point reconvened. I mean, that must be terrible if he was the only one, but thankfully he was not the only one in this situation. Yes, sorry, I lost my spot. They reconvened. There was a lunch. They were allowed back around the others then. Hands still marked with those permanent 0s. They literally then boarded the bus and went 2 hours back home in silence. He expressed how little was said, and it seemed no one gave it any thought except the few of them that had just experienced one of the worst days ever. And I can't understand why they would put them through this. Why a 2-hour bus ride to get to a place to not be able to do the thing. And then a 2-hour bus ride back. So it seems like the only point of the bus ride was to take them, to separate them and put them off to the side. I apologized profusely to my son. This is not the world I wanted to raise him in. When I was taught about branding, removing rights, and treating people like less than humans in history, I never in a million years thought my children would ever experience anything remotely like this. My son did. This is monstrous and all adults and governments and affiliations that partook in this need to know the mental anguish you have inflicted on innocent children. My son was devastated, but you would not know his suffering. He sat silently on the bus the whole way home, just trying to get through it. He cried that night at home. I don't remember the last time that happened because he does not even want to quit cadets. This is what he holds on to in memory of his late grandfather, who was a pilot, and that is absolutely devastating. Who are we and why are we doing this? The cadets. Why are we doing this? What is our purpose? Who are we? We're over 57,000 youth aged 12 to 18, supervised by over 9,000 military and civilian members, supported by their communities, sponsored the Canadian Armed Forces, the Navy, Army Cadet, and Air Cadet Leagues of Canada. Why are we doing this? We strengthen Canadian communities by investing in youth and developing community leaders. Is this our idea of developing community leaders? And that is going to be the question here today. So no matter what the reason why someone did not receive a vaccination, whether it be that they believe that they don't find that viable for their own health, whether they have an exemption, whether it be religious or by some medical condition. I know people have heart conditions and they cannot get this by the doctor's demand, saying do not get this. Now, those people with medical or religious exemptions are in the same boat as people who choose not to for their own personal reasons. Now, that does not, none of these give you an exemption from the actual consequences of other people's actions. And this is where we are today. We're in a situation where we know hyperbolic on the internet, people are saying all kinds of things, but in reality, when the government and the Department of National Defense is using this opportunity to punish children, that's when we have to question what we're doing here. We have to really, really question what it is that we're doing here. So the question today is, should this be taking place? And, well, obviously nobody's going to answer that. Just leave a comment in the comment section down below. I don't even know what to say here. Anyways, we'll see you in the next video. Keep on trucking.